In other words, I got to prize God above myself. I got to prize God above my spouse. I got to prize God above a job, above my children. God has to be the number one priority in my life, because if he is not, I can't receive the reward that I need. You understand that now? Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to them that love him. Then he says in the next verse, let no man say, don't nobody dare say when you were tempted that the temptation came from God. Why? Because he said, I can't be tempted with evil. Now watch this. Now just imagine you just came into some money and you just built a new $3 million home. Paid for cash. You did it cash because we don't believe in the debt. You paid for it cash. It's yours. It's just like you like it. You moved into the nice neighborhood. You ain't got to worry about your children being arrested, being jacked by nobody. You're in a nice, clean area. But then the next day, you get out there and spray paint your building and write graffiti on the building. What did you just do? You just defamed the property. Not only did you defame the property, here's what you do. You devalued the property. And in some places, some neighborhoods that you live in, if you do that, you're going to find out that the watch commander of the community is going to try to sue you. Why? Because not only did you defame your property, you devalued theirs too. So ask yourself a question. If I am the house that God lives in, why would he defame where he lives? Because if he does, he devalues the property. So he's not going to devalue his property. How many understand that tonight? So when I'm going through, I cannot say, God did it. God trying to teach me a lesson. I was in church one time, and brother came in. He was all jumping, jerking, jiggling, shouting. He was on fire for the Lord. And then he went missing for about 3-4 weeks. Finally, he came back in the church. They, where you been, brother? Well, you know, the Lord was testing me. Come on now. Lord wasn't testing you, brother. The problem was you didn't want to come to church because you was in sin. That was the problem. How many know your sin ain't no business of the enemy? You need to get to church, get to the altar, ask God for forgiveness so you can get back on the track and keep on running. The Bible said this race is not given to the person who can run the fastest or the person who's the strongest, but it's given to the one who would endure to the end. So guess what I'm going to do when I mess up? Ask for forgiveness and get myself back on track. How many understand that? How many times do we see Christian people abort their destiny simply because we messed up and we don't want to come back and get our lives right? See, God knew you was going to mess up. That's why Jesus died. The Bible said he was a lamb slain before the foundation of the world. In other words, God had a contingent plan already set in place because he knew we were going to abort the baby. Isn't that amazing? How God is the master planner. There is no planner like God. Saying, I'm going to bless you, but at the same time, I know you're going to mess it up. So let me have a ram caught in the thicket before time began. Because I know you're going to mess this thing up. But I got something hidden in a secret place for you. So watch what he says. Now, blessed is the man that endureth temptation. For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord has promised to them that love him. Let nobody say, don't nobody dare say when they tempted that the temptation came from God. Watch the next verse. But every man, somebody say every man. Every man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust. So notice this now, it didn't come from God, it's in you. It's in you. It is found in your heart. It's in your heart. Nobody commits sin by accident. You do it willingly. You do it willingly. You planned it out. Look, when I was in the world and cheating, I planned my cheats. I planned it out. I had a woman on the side and get ready to leave out. I would hide clothes down the street and around the corner in the park area. Because I'm going and change clothes because I'm going out with this one. And I'm going to make sure I got me some towels and soap somewhere so I can get all the makeup off me and all the perfume smell off me and come back and put the same clothes I had on that I left home with. So when I went home, you wouldn't know I was cheating. How many know that's a lot of work to cheat? That's a lot of work to commit sin. But listen to this. I was doing it. Got both my hands up. Some of y'all was planning to. You know you planned to cheat. Look, I got my hand up, both my feet. It was me. I did it. But notice this now. I willfully committed the act. I willfully did it because I thought that having a lot of women was the best thing going. And then I found out there ain't no good in that. See, anytime you see a man or a woman having multiple relationships at the same time, it is an emptiness inside of themselves that they're trying to fill. And they're trying to do it by sexual gratification. And trust me, sex can't satisfy you like you need to be satisfied. You need a relationship with Jesus Christ. Ladies, may I tell you, if you're dating a man and having sex with him, and you've been doing it for a while and he won't marry you, that's a sure sign that you need to move on. If you're good enough to wash his clothes, good enough to cook his food, good enough to clean up behind him, and good enough to be tapped at 2 in the morning, you should be good enough to be married to. Because watch this now, you are performing an illegal act in the eyesight of God. You are not wifey. You're not wifey. Come on, somebody. You act like you wifey because the law said you a common law married. But how many know that law got to come subject to the law of God? And God said fornication is wrong. It's wrong. If you are good enough to sleep with, you should be good enough to marry. Let me understand that. Man, if you got to track her down and look for her, and then when you finally get in contact with her, why you calling me? That's a sure sign. Pack up and move on. You with the wrong woman. Because every woman that I know wants you to check on them and see how they're doing through the day. Now, if she got a problem with it, that's a sure sign. Move on. If you're spending all your money and that's the only way you can see it by buying something, move on, brother, quickly. Move on quickly. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. But watch this now. He says, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Now, watch this now. Enticement comes when I'm focusing on that which is not in God's will. When I'm desiring what is not in God's plan, the enemy knows it, and here's what he does. He applies pressure to you, and he says, it's okay for you to sleep with her. Won't nobody know it. God will forgive. Matter of fact, it's okay for you to desire sister so-and-so position in church because she really ain't all that anyway. You could do it better. You know we had that in church. You want to be the usher knowing you don't have no skills. It's amazing to me how people want to become babysitters, get a babysitting company started, but you don't like children. That don't make no sense to me. You don't like children. You setting yourself up for jail time and a lawsuit because you're going to hurt a child because you don't like children. Be real. I don't like children, don't want to be around them. So listen to this, Lord, what have I been called to do so I don't get myself off track? So here's what the enemy does. He entices you with money. Let me understand that. I know I've heard Dr. Caldwell teach that money is the lowest form of power. If he can get your mindset focused on something that is not in God's plan for you, he got you now. Because watch this now, you become slave to that which you desire. This is why you see people who get hooked on drugs become slaves to the drug. They may not want to do the drug, but they're enslaved to it. They can't stop. They can't help it. The world calls it addictions, but God calls it lasciviousness. I call it you can't help it. You just can't help it. You ever been in a car that's been driving and you tried to stop it with the brakes and the car wouldn't stop? You just pumping the brakes. You want to stop, but you can't. That's what happens when you get in abundance to lust. You want to stop, but you just can't stop. Can't stop. I know many people who are in bondage, don't want to be in the bondage. But because they opened themselves up to sin, they let a door open and the enemy walked in the door. Now it held them captive and they can't go nowhere. Some people feel like, well, you know what? I don't use drugs every day. I just use it moderately. Here's what the enemy did to you. Instead of putting a fence right in front of you right here, he gave you some yard that still got a fence to it. You got some area to roam in, but you still fenced in. He called that minimum security prison. Give you some room with some privileges because, watch this now, he needs you in the kingdom authority that you have to pull people into darkness. How many understand that? I know I heard Dr. Caldwell talk about the 7 pillars and the 7 kingdoms. God have people strategically placed in places to win the kingdom and change the kingdom, because he didn't come for souls, he came for the kingdoms. He who controls the kingdoms controls the souls.